Hey everyone, welcome back to Poplet Book Club. This month we have the novel Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ng. This book was received very well when it first came out 3 years ago, earning starred reviews from Publishers Weekly, Kirkus, and Booklist. And then this spring, the miniseries came out from Hulu, and that also had great reviews. The story has drawn in a large group of readers and viewers alike, so let's take a look at what grabbed everyone's interest. Little Fires Everywhere is a domestic drama that takes place in the 90s in the author's hometown of Shaker Heights, which is a planned community in Ohio just east of Cleveland. Celeste narrated the plot in third-person omniscient, so the reader gets a look into almost every character's thoughts at some point. This results in a very well-rounded story, allowing the reader to get a look at all sides of the issues presented. Despite all the different points of view, there really are only two main characters, Elena Richardson and Pearl Warren. Mia is close to, but not quite a main character. Elena and Pearl are the characters that are challenged and developed throughout the story, while Mia doesn't really change, but instead acts as a foil to Elena and a catalyst for Pearl to analyze the people and events around her. Thanks to the narration, we do experience the important development of other characters as well, but none to the extent of these two. Elena is an interesting, if not very likable character. As a young woman, she was inspired by her mother to take action on issues that were important to her and become a reporter who would delve into big stories. However, she has spent her adult life tamping down that passion, telling herself that it's better to be orderly and strive for change through more deliberate means. Mia, who has spent her life feverishly following her passion for art, stands in stark contrast to Elena, who is suddenly reminded of what she gave up for her domesticated life. Pearl is a typical teenage girl who grew up in a very atypical way. Her mother has promised her that she can finally settle down somewhere, and so she finds her way into the clan of Richardson children, the first group that she has ever solidly been a part of. Both this situation and her age lead her to consider parts of herself and her life that she had never really given much thought to. What it would be like to be part of a stable nuclear family, the mystery of her mother's past, and attraction to a boy. Pearl soon learns how complicated relationships of all kinds can be, and though there isn't a lot of interaction between her and her mother specifically in the book, Mia does help Pearl along by offering her space to make her own choices while still being ready to offer support should she need it. I think it's pretty obvious that the central theme of this book is motherhood. There's the custody battle between Bibi Chow and Linda McCullough over Mei Ling or Mirabelle, which creates the environment that propels the internal struggles of the characters. There's also Mia's relationship with her only daughter Pearl, and Elena's relationship with her 4 children, especially the supposed problem child, Izzy. Celeste also relates Linda's long struggle with infertility, which leads to the adoption in the first place, and the story of another character, which I won't detail to avoid spoilers, which frames a harsh reality in an empathetic perspective. In life, every mother experiences her role differently and in such complex ways. And I think how Celeste juxtaposes such different experiences is done really well. It's easy enough for someone to picture a specific type of mom or motherhood in an abstract way, but it's by digging into the internal struggles experienced by these mothers that we can come to empathize with their unique predicaments. Okay, time for discussion questions. Please answer these or give any of your other thoughts that you had in the comments below. Consider Pearl's character. How has her upbringing of being uprooted frequently shaped her view of things? What draws her to the Richardsons? Little Fires Everywhere takes place in the 1990s. How differently do you think the story would play out now? Over the course of the custody case, both Lexi and her father waver in their stances. As you learned more about the characters, did your personal opinion evolve? Why and how? Why do you think Celeste chose to set this novel in a suburb and a planned community? How does the setting affect the characters' decisions, and how differently do you think the story would be if it was set in a more urban environment? The novel's opening begins with a fire and then goes back to trace the events that lead up to it. Why might Celeste have structured her novel to begin with the ending and the most dramatic event? How does the reverse structure affect your reading of the story? If you haven't seen the miniseries yet, what changes do you think they made for it? And if you have seen it, what did you think of the adaptation? And what would you have maybe done differently? This book was a little slow to begin with, but I did enjoy reading it. I like that the author didn't pick any specific side to the custody debate, and that while some things aren't necessarily resolved, they aren't cliffhangers so much as opportunities for the reader to consider their thoughts. I also think she dealt with the teenagers in a very realistic way, which made the whole story more believable. I haven't watched the Hulu series yet, but I do hope to get into that soon because it does look really good. Included in the description is a link to another discussion of the novel written by the author herself, which includes a little interview with Celeste, information on the historic houses of Shaker Heights, and even a playlist of songs to go with the characters. There really are a lot of pieces of this book that you can dig into, and that depth makes the story feel very real. Also linked in the description are 2 events happening soon. The One Book, One Community Author Talk with J. Ryan Straddle about our book from May, The Lager Queen of Minnesota, is happening on Facebook on the 24th. There's also another author talk with Jason Soul on the 29th. His talk is part of our Arts and Cultural Heritage series and will be a conversation about race in Minnesota. Having looked at his past work, it should be really interesting. So check that out if you get the chance. And if you don't get to right away, we should have recordings up as well later. Well, that should be plenty to get you through until our next discussion, which will be on Agatha Christie's Death on the Nile. This is actually going to be my first time reading an Agatha Christie novel, so I'm really excited to see what it's going to be like. You can find Death on the Nile and Little Fires Everywhere in our physical catalog and in digital format on Overdrive and Libby. Until then, I hope you enjoyed this book and discussion, and I will see you next month. Happy reading!